Looks like Craig Breslow's being pretty upfront about what he's going to be trying to do in 2025. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and with the Red Sox season officially over, them being eliminated just a couple of days ago, the offseason games have begun. Last year, for the Red Sox, things did not go well when they had a whole lot of time speaking. This year, it sounds like Craig Breslow's coming in here with a very, very specific plan as to what he's going to do to improve this Red Sox team, and we have some quotes here that we absolutely need to talk about, so that's exactly what we're going to do in today's video. We're going to go over all the latest Craig Breslow quotes and what it could mean and what we could be expecting come the 2025 offseason. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. Okay, so Craig Breslow's actually doing a bit of a media tour right now. He's gone on a bunch of different things, talked about what the offseason could look like. So we got a couple of different sources here that we're going to be pulling quotes from. The first one coming from an Alex Spear article in the Boston Globe. I'll link the full article in the description down below, but there are a couple of really important things, in my opinion, Craig Breslow said about this offseason that we absolutely need to talk about in today's video, with the first quote being about what he's planning on attacking in terms of improving this roster for 2025. It's pretty clear heading into the offseason what we need to address, Breslow says. He then goes on to mention pretty much the same thing he said last year, which is balance in the lineup. He did add in this season, though, that the solution for that may come in the form of a prospect call-up, specifically Grissom, Campbell, and Meidroth. I don't know what exactly that means in terms of what they're planning on doing with the lineup balance, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on. Upgrades in the rotation and bullpen help. Yeah, I don't think any of these are really a surprise. I don't think any of these are really like, wow, they really want to improve this position, right? If you would watch the Red Sox at really any point this season outside of basically April, those probably would be the same things that you would say, hey, the Red Sox should probably improve coming into 2025, but it is nice to see it out on paper. Now, he did go into a bit more detail as to what he's talking about in terms of lineup balance on an interview with the Greg Hill Show on WEEI, and that quote is much more in depth here. It's, I think we need to figure out how to balance out our lineup. Obviously, it's left-handed heavy, and a number of our young players who will be impacting the big league club shortly are also left-handed. I think we need to figure out how we balance that out to not leave ourselves so susceptible to left-handed pitching. We could never have enough starting pitching. We could never have enough quality starting pitching, so I think looking at starting pitching is the other area of focus. I don't mind this emphasis on a right-handed bat. I think it is going to be important going forward, especially with a bunch of the young players being left-handed, absolutely. But I don't personally think this should be the biggest emphasis the Red Sox are making this offseason. It kind of sounds like at this point, that's exactly what Craig Breslow's doing. That's going to be the big focus this offseason. And again, while I do think a right-handed bat is important, bringing in one right-handed power hitter, regardless of whether or not he's the best left-handed pitching hitter in the entire sport, isn't going to fully solve their problem against left-handed pitching, because guys like Rafael Devers is still going to be here, Casas and Duran. At the bare minimum, one of those guys is still going to be here. Your prospects that you are going to rely on anchoring this team that are left-handed are most likely still going to be here. In my opinion, the solution to getting better against left-handed pitching is finding a way as a unit to get better lefty on lefty, because at the end of the day, one guy is not going to be able to score all the runs you need to score to win games against left-handed pitching. A combination of your entire lineup is going to be able to do that. Left-handed pitching this season essentially totally neutralized Rafael Devers and Jarren Duran. That simply cannot happen going forward if this team wants to succeed. In my opinion, if we're looking at what were the biggest problems with the Red Sox this season, it wasn't so much that their right-handed hitters couldn't hit lefty pitching. It was that their left-handed hitters were getting absolutely neutralized by left-handed pitching, and the bullpen and the pitching rotation, those were the two things, in my opinion, that are much more important to improve upon if we're looking at external options for the Red Sox. He mentioned very specifically that naturally this lineup is going to be a bit more balanced. Once you start to get guys like Grissom and Campbell integrated into this lineup, it's naturally going to be a bit more balanced. Trevor Story, hopefully being healthy for the 2025 season, adds a bit more balance than you had this season. I just think that pitching, in my opinion, is so much bigger of an issue for this Red Sox team. So I'm hoping that while they should focus on possibly balancing out this this lineup a bit more, that pitching still remains the main focus for this team, and those quotes do make me a little bit nervous. But that's not the only quotes that we need to talk about, because he also had some in regards to how he's planning on acquiring these players that are going to improve this roster. But before we get into that, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Just simply helps these videos out a ton, and it's the best way to let me know you're enjoying the content. Thank you all very much for taking a second and doing so. Let's get into some of the bigger quotes here. The big quote that I want to talk about in this video, and where a large chunk of our conversation is going to come from, has to do with a quote that he spoke about where he mentioned what he's planning on doing to acquire the targets that he had in his mind. The quote is exactly, "We have seen the ability to be competitive in the AL East with a young group that's exciting and really dynamic." Now, I know there are going to be a lot of people that say, well, they didn't really compete for the AL East overall this season. You're right. But at portions of this season, there were legitimate conversations about whether or not the Red Sox could actually fight for a division title, and I think a lot of that had to do with exactly what he's saying, the young group that is exciting, that is dynamic. He's not wrong in that statement. The rest of this quote, we've got to figure out what the right pieces are to add to that. I think it's likely some of that comes via trade, because there's only so many middle infielders and left-handed hitting outfielders we could play at any given time. The full quote to me said a lot without actually saying much, but I do think there is a lot that we could pull out of this. The first is that it sort of confirms a lot of our speculation that we've had over the past couple of months, that the Red Sox are looking to make a legitimately big trade this offseason, right? Because I think when you look at what he highlighted in terms of the pool that they're going to be pulling from for these trades, there are a ton of extremely talented players here, and even if you want to make a smaller trade, it's still going to be significant because of that pool that he mentioned. That's the second thing I want to talk about. It essentially confirms that the Red Sox are looking to trade from a pool of Wilyer Abreu, Jarren Duran, Masataka Yoshida, Chase Meidroth, David Hamilton, and Manuel Valdez, Vaughn Grissom, Marcelo Meyer, Christian Campbell, Nick Sogard, Franklin Arias, Yoel Cespedes, Nazan Zanatello, Mikey Romero, and Roman Anthony. They all become forefront for what the Red Sox are going to be trying to do in terms of adding in 2025. And if you just take a look at the list of people I named when it comes to what Craig Breslow wants to pull from to make these trades, there's a whole lot of talent there, right? There is a whole lot of people that could be big impact players at the major league level on that list. And he's right. At some point, you have to make room for someone to make their debut on this team, or to make additions to this team. Someone's going to have to go, and all of these names are going to hurt in different areas. But at the end of the day, these are the players that are going to get you what you need to get on the open market. I think the biggest thing to pull from this is the fact that he did highlight the trade market. He didn't say, oh, we're going to be looking at all avenues. I mean, he did say that, but he specifically mentioned the trade market. He specifically mentioned middle infielders and left-handed outfielders. To me, it feels like this offseason is going to be a whole lot of movement for the Red Sox in terms of trades. It's not so much going to be a focus on the free agent market, which I think is kind of smart by Craig Breslow, right? Like, we as fans understand that ownership isn't going to be spending a ton of money, although he did have a quote on the Greg Hill show that sounded very much the opposite. He said, "The commitment from ownership to get us where we need to go is strong. It's up to me to figure out what opportunities we need to pursue, but I don't have any questions about ownership's willingness to do that. We need to get the Red Sox back to where we belong." I got to be honest with you. I got a whole lot of questions as to whether or not ownership's going to allow Craig Breslow to do that. I think all of you have a lot of questions as to whether or not Craig Breslow is going to do that. And I think at the end of the day, regardless of what he's saying, even though this sounds exactly like something that was put into an email from ownership's PR team to Craig Breslow when asked about this question, there's most likely going to be a fiscal budget on what Craig Breslow is allowed to spend this offseason, which to me immediately, in combination with what he said about the trade market, is going to indicate that what we are going to see this offseason from the Red Sox isn't so much in a bidding war for a top free agent talent. It's more so going to be figuring out how to add impact players to this roster under that budget while also being able to get young players with control. And the best way to do that is to go through the trade market. So it's going to be a really interesting offseason, in my opinion. I think this is going to be a highlight of it. Overall, taking a look at these latest quotes from Craig Breslow, there are a couple things things I really like from them. One, it sounds like he has a legitimate plan of attack for this offseason. It sounds like he understands exactly what the Red Sox need to get the job done. Now, obviously, there is a difference between targets and execution, but the other thing I really like about these quotes, these early quotes from Craig Breslow, and I'm sure we're going to be talking about 1,000 of these before the offseason begins, but what I really like about them is the fact that he kind of already understands what the path to that execution may be. Now, obviously, as they get into the market and as they realize, hey, well, this is what the trade market's shaping out to look like versus this is what the free agent market's shaping up to look like, there is going to be some deviation from that path just simply because of things put in their way. But at the end of the day, having that path forward, understanding what it's going to take to be able to execute that, and more importantly, being willing to take that path in order to execute these plans is going to be really important. And these quotes, call me crazy, give me a little bit of hope that Craig Breslow is going to be willing to do that. And I do think that at the end of the day, what we're looking at from this Red Sox offseason is a couple of really notable trades and a couple of trades that hopefully work out really well, because so far, Craig Breslow's trades, for the most part, haven't entirely gone to plan. The thought process has been fine. It's the execution that has been the issue. And so this offseason is going to be about proving, from Craig Breslow's point of view, that he can execute these plans well and to the point that it impacts this team immediately. I don't think anyone in that list is really safe from being traded this offseason, and that's going to make for a fascinating offseason. But that's just my opinion. So let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think? What do you think about these quotes from Craig Breslow? Do they give you hope? Do they make you nervous? What are your thoughts on the Red Sox offseason in general? Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton. Best way to let me know you're enjoying the content. Don't forget, if you want to listen instead of watch these episodes, all you got to do is head over to your favorite podcasting app and look up Red Seat Radio. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the Red Seats.